Both of us students from Park University School of Management were doing a thesis about the RIS. Part of the thesis is to run some interviews about two people involved in Diagnostic Imaging Center, try to understand what are they adopting now in terms of equipment, what are, if they are or not adopting an RIS, and to understand more about the decision-making process behind buying an RIS or not, which are the main factors of driving this decision.
Okay, interesting.
Do you mind if we record it or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she doesn't mind.
No, because part of our research project is, as mentioned before, these interviews we're going to record them because we're doing some kind of qualitative analysis on it. So we have passed all this kind of transcription for a software, try to identify which are the main patterns or the main words future adopters are using to describe particularly sentiment or decision about the software.
So can I just ask, did you come to Book My Scan as one of your, or was it the other way around?
It came through Marcus, and Marcus came to me and said, "Would you like a project done?" And I said, "Yes, that's a good idea." So that was how. So all of the MSc students have to do a project and do a thesis, and I think Marcus is very close to one of the lecturers there. And she just said, "Oh, Marcus, have you got any good projects?" Because I assume he's been assigned projects in the past.
I see. So okay, great. I'll help as best I can.
So the first question is really simple: are you giving us the consent to record this conversation?
Yes.
University was really clear about it. Please collect an informed consensus about recording all the data and so on. So we have to start.
When Marcus comes, I'll get this water.
Okay. Because we didn't know more detail about the clinic you're working in. So can you give us some details or basic information? Can know more about that?
Yes. So the London Orthopaedic Clinic was founded 10 years ago by a group of orthopaedic surgeons, full-time private orthopaedic surgeons. There were 5 founding partners, and this time last year there were 14 consultants working at the London Orthopaedic Clinic. It was a mixture of orthopaedic surgeons who are divided up into subspecialties. So they do foot and ankle is one team, hip and knee is another team, and upper limb is the third team. We have a small spinal service, and then a pain team that works alongside the orthopaedic surgeons. We used to be based in a self-contained building on Wimpole Street, 79 Wimpole Street, where we had the X-ray services and the ultrasound services and all the consulting on an outpatient basis. In November last year, we moved from that building into a dedicated unit within King Edward VII Hospital. So at that point, we gave up our X-ray service. So at the moment, we don't have an X-ray service. We use the X-ray service of the hospital. Likewise, we use the MRI services of the hospital and a few other facilities in the area. We do continue to run our own ultrasound service. So I'm wondering whether you, when answering your questions, you prefer me to refer to...
Go back to the standalone clinic. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that was the period when you were looking at implementing a RIS, and that was a point when you were making you were making decisions that were relevant to the project.
Okay. So I will talk about that period as if it were
today.
Okay. In terms of X-ray services and ultrasound services.
Sorry, just to add maybe to that, which is within that service, there was an X-ray machine in the basement which had one radiographer.
Okay.
So that was offering a service basically from 8:30 in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then there were ultrasound services which were performed by a consultant radiologist. There was at least one clinic every day.
Yes. Yeah. It's probably worth mentioning also that most of the referrals into X-ray and ultrasound, probably 95% of all referrals into those services came from our own clinicians. So we weren't really offering a service to external referrers.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, at that time, the amount of people involved in the centre were more or less. So you mentioned something before, like 14 people. Okay.
Not every day.
Okay, yeah, but in total, in
But
the structure.
in total, yeah.
Okay, 14 people, medical team, and other people's.
So there were 14 clinicians. I mean,
Okay.
not all of them were medical consultants. Some were allied professionals. So, for example, an MSK podiatrist, a hand therapist, a psychologist. So 14 specialists, if you
Okay.
like. And then,
But I mean, splitting the hand surgery doctor and the psychology. So just I guess that the psychology was not involved with
Imaging.
no.
Okay, so I mean, I would like to understand how many people out of these 14 people were involved with
Referring into
Yeah.
imaging. Well, I would say 11,
11,
with the podiatrist occasionally
Yeah.
sending patients for imaging. However, 3 of them probably did 85% of the work.
Okay.
So 3 very, very busy consultants, and the rest were just 1 or 2 a month.
Okay.
Very small numbers.
And so do you have radiologists as well as radiographer? Or?
Yes.
Okay. So it's more or less how many?
Well, we work with a pool of 6 radiologists,
Okay.
and they did all the reporting of the X-rays, and the reporting of the ultrasound scans, as well as the interventional procedures that we were doing.
Okay.
But they sort of worked on they came in to do one clinic for us. They all except one have a busy NHS practice, so they would do this and say, my availability is a Wednesday afternoon from this time to this time. So according to their availability, we ran the ultrasound clinics.
Okay. And in more or less how many
Radiographers.
Yeah.
So initially, when the service was set up, there were 2 radiographers.
Okay.
And then towards the end, we had just one who was self-employed. He became self-employed,
Yeah. Okay.
but was able to work long hours as needed.
And so there was one radiographer, but then helping in the ultrasound clinic was someone called a healthcare assistant. So not qualified as a radiographer, but trained like a nurse to work and support the doctor. So when the doctor wanted an injection or whatever it was, she would prepare it. She'd go and get the patient from outside, that sort of stuff.
Specialised in this.
Yes, so it's a radiographer and a healthcare assistant.
Okay. So would you like to continue or can I go ahead with my... Okay. So if it's possible, do you remember or you can give us a roughly figure how many patients the structure was treating in terms of always, if you know, just referring to the imaging part.
How many patients went through X-ray and how many went through ultrasound?
I mean, if you have that level of detail, it would be better, but just to have a rough idea.
Off the top of my head, I would say we're doing about 60 ultrasounds at the moment. So
a week? No. We were doing, at that time, we were doing about 15 X-rays a day, between 10 and 15 X-rays a day, and we were doing about 40, between 30 and 40 ultrasounds a week. It was 5 to 8. It was 6 to 8 a day on average, wasn't it? Ultrasounds.
Yeah.
So you can do the maths.
Yeah. It's fine. But, I mean, I have a ratio of every. Okay. And in terms of patients you were treating, do you have a roughly an idea about the main characteristic of them? I mean, why they were coming to your facilities, to your structure?
A combination really of injuries.
Okay.
Some were acute injuries. Others were some with chronic pain, obviously coming into the pain team. I think primarily pain.
Okay.
It's pain of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of, I guess it was a private clinic.
Yeah.
So why do you think that they decide to go for your clinic rather than another one? Maybe something like proximity, location, opening hours.
So, first of all, because we are part of the prestigious Harley Street medical area of London. Do you know about Harley Street?
No.
Okay, well, Harley Street is, I won't take up too much of your time, but it's world renowned for private healthcare.
Okay.
Top class private healthcare. Harley Street is just here. It's a long street that is just here, and we were part of that medical area. So first of all, there's prestige there. Secondly, we were well established. So our clinic, our brand, had been around for 10 years. The founding partners were certainly the foot surgeon and the shoulder surgeon were key opinion leaders in their field. So they were big names. They had all previously had sort of top NHS posts in good teaching hospitals. We offered, so from the patient's perspective, the convenience of a one-stop shop. So they would come in, they would see the consultant, in the same visit be sent down for X-ray, come straight back, the consultant would see the images, decide whether they needed to go into plaster or have a medical aid fitted. If the X-ray didn't reveal enough to make a diagnosis, then they could have same-day ultrasound, diagnostic ultrasound, and then go on to have end-to-end ultrasound. So all that could be arranged in the same day, in the same visit, on the same site. So I think that was a big plus. From the research that we've been doing recently, we find also that personal recommendations are very important, and we had an established relationship with the sort of key GP referrers in and around this area. There's also quite a lot of cross-referral from within the clinic. So, a patient comes in to see a consultant with a foot problem, and his wife happens to have a sore shoulder, or they've got pain in the neck, or whiplash, or whatever. So the cross-referrals worked well in the clinic.
Okay. So generally word of mouth was a big chunk of it, yeah.
Word of mouth is,
yeah. It's been a very important word.
We've nearly finished. Good.
Hello. Steph, I was just asking you something because I haven't seen this gentleman for many years.
Yes, that's right.
I was just going to say hello. How are you? You're half the size you were. What's your secret? And you?
How are you?
I'm very well, yeah, very well. You look very well,
From
Mark.
sideways on, he's getting very hard to see, isn't
You
he?
need to tell me your secret, my goodness.
Fear and starvation.
You look very well, very, very well.
Having got thin and terribly pleased with myself, I've now just prolapsed a bloody disc.
Oh, no.
Hence the stick.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
You know
You guys
these-
alright?
You know these chaps, presumably?
I do. You okay?
Yeah, thank you. How are you?
I'm alright. Everything good with Ben?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, she's doing good.
Are you doing good?
No, yeah, she's
She happy?
she's treating us very, very, very well.
And she's happy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. She happy with everybody else?
Yes.
Yeah, quite busy at this moment, but yes.
Mm.
How are you, Christina?
Very well, very well. Yes, so interested in this project that you've... thank you.
Well, you're the perfect person to start.
If I'm giving you too much detail, you must have
Christina will be forensic and detailed. You'll never meet anybody like her again, so make the most of it. And she will tell you all the questions you should have thought of asking. That's true.
Okay, we can start again, I think, now.
Now, sorry I've interrupted.
No, don't worry.
I'll sit here next to you, shall I? Go ahead, go on, get on with it.
Okay.
I'm just here to heckle.
So I'm must keep page and okay. So if you can get back to the modalities you were using, do you remember which brands they were?
Yes.
So the X-ray machine is G,
Okay.
and the ultrasound machine is Philips.
Philips and G. Okay. X-ray was G. Okay. And so, when you were in this, as you mentioned before, size structure, so you were using something like a management information system for dealing with this number of patients and all the information you might be able to learn.
The patient management system that we used in the clinic
Yeah.
is something called DGL, Practice Manager.
Okay. And I mean, which kind of what was the main purpose of using that?
Everything. So scheduling, so appointments, patient records, billing, capturing referrer information, analysis reports.
Okay.
Somebody told them that DGL is almost a standard around here for
Yes.
patient
It's
administration.
it's the most used system.
Okay.
It doesn't store tax images or anything like that.
And I mean, did you start? I mean, at the beginning of the early days of the clinic, so did you use another method before, something like a classic paper, and then you moved to the digitalized management system, or?
I wasn't there at the beginning, but my understanding is that they used DGL from the start.
Okay.
When they set up the clinic, they did DGL.
So it was not a transition period or something like that. And I mean, what was your feeling about that, about this kind of system?
It's not very good. There's a big gap in the market, and now we find ourselves in the situation where we are looking for an alternative to DGL.
Okay.
And unfortunately, there's nothing really out there that serves as a hospital record management system as well as a practice management system. So
You understand the difference?
No, that was my following question.
Okay. So we are now in a situation where we are going to move our practice to a new hospital.
Yeah.
The new hospital are putting in one system,
Yeah.
which we thought was going to be fantastic for everybody, but we've now discovered that the system that they are putting in
Yeah.
will manage the day surgery unit, and it will manage the imaging
Yeah.
and the patient records, etc., for those, and the bloods and the pharmacy.
Okay.
But actually, in terms of registration, consultant billing,
Yeah.
Outpatient. Is that patient- outpatient
outcomes,
clinic?
outpatient clinic outcomes, all these other things that it can't offer a very good service. We want online booking for our patients. It can't
Yeah.
provide online booking. We want to go paper light. I think to be paperless is pie in the sky. So unfortunately, in this new hospital, they are now saying that they're very happy with the system they're putting in, but all the visiting consultants have to use whatever the system they're on at the moment, which means that we're we've got two options. Either we're stuck with DGL, or we have to look around for an alternative system.
Okay.
So there's a big gap. So in terms of practice management,
Why don't you like DGL?
well,
What doesn't it do
what doesn't it do?
that you
So first
is
of all,
important to you?
it doesn't allow online booking in the same way that you can book your dentist or your hairdresser or your food delivery online. You can book a slot.
Yeah.
DGL does not allow patients to see what availability there is, which I think is very backward. It doesn't allow online payment either. So if somebody wants to pay their bill at 8 o'clock at night and the office is closed, it doesn't allow that. It doesn't allow the consultant to dictate with voice recognition software directly into the system. It would be very nice if it had that. So our consultants pay a lot of money on typists, where they still dictate into a dictaphone, upload the file, and then have somebody at the other end types the letter, still needs to be checked, and then upload into DGL. So
Right, just so I understand, there are no APIs on DGL. There's no technology that allows you to feed in the output from a voice recognition system. You can't.
No,
it's
but
not open enough to say, take this file of words.
However, don't quote me, because most consultants who use DGL use a hosted version, a cloud-based version of DGL. We, because of the patient records that we have, it's too large to put in the cloud, so we have our own server. And I think that the service that we receive as a result of that is limited. So if there have been any upgrades, we don't get them, and we don't know about them. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, our server-based DGL does not allow any of this. What else does it not do?
What does that mean? Too big for the cloud?
Well, apparently, we were told that if we were to move, and we are looking at moving to cloud-based DGL, we would fill a whole server within the cloud. So it just they won't take us. There's just too much data there. But what it can't do is it can't extract.
Who's they?
DGL. So what it can't do is it can't extract. Say, if I want to take the last 3 years' worth of records, it can't do that. It can't extract. So it's either everything that's on the server or nothing at all. It can't extract data by consultant either. So if I want to run a report by consultant, you're limited to, as I said before, we have a lot of trust referrals within the organisation. So if a patient first came in and saw Mr. Brian Cohen, the shoulder specialist, but that patient has been back numerous times over the last 10 years and has seen different consultants.
So there's not a single patient view.
Single patient view.
Yeah, I mean,
So you don't see everything. If I've been to see 3 or 4 different people, you can't just identify me and see all my data. Because some of my stuff will be with Brian, some of it will be with
you
Lloyd.
can. You can see the patient record, but in terms of running reports, that patient is linked to that initial consultant that you first saw.
Yep.
So he will always show as that particular consultant's patients and not anybody else that he's seen. The report writing on DGL is very, very poor. So
What do you mean with poor?
not good.
It doesn't do what they want. It doesn't give the information.
Not very good. So for example, and this may
Causa
also...
de merda. Causa de merda. Of course, she's Portuguese. Spanish, she'll understand.
So
That's the same word.
for example, we've now made it mandatory for the secretaries to identify where a referral has come from in terms of categories. Okay, so that's fine. We run a weekly report, and we now understand, percentage-wise, how many come from the internet, how many come from GPs, etc., etc. What we can't do is drill down one level further and say, okay, of the private GPs that are referred to us this week, who are they?
Okay.
So that has to be done manually. So somebody has to take that information and go in and say, okay, GP referrals, this patient number, let's have a look and see who came from. So all those sorts of reports have to be done manually. So in terms of getting sensible data off the system, it's hopeless. It's hopeless. It may be as a result of how it was first set up, and the fact that when it was first set up, it was a much smaller practice, and nobody really needed all this information, and therefore it was not input properly in the first place in terms of mandatory fields, etc. But the patient records, I mean, even if with accounts, if I ask twice on the same day for an age debt report for the embassies, for example, within 5 minutes I can be given completely different numbers, two different routes. The same report run twice, it gives different results. So very, very unreliable.
Okay. And this lack of functionality is giving you any problems with, I don't know, if you're working, for instance, with insurance or...
We have had problems. We've spent a lot of time ironing them out, because to be able to bill the insurers, you have to do it electronically now. But the insurers link up with a middleman, and a lot of invoices were being rejected, and the codes were wrong. But now, no, the billing works. The billing works okay.
Okay. Yes, sir. Just a couple of more questions. So if you would have the possibility to come back and say, okay, I can choose a different management information system, you would take again DGL or no?
At the moment, with the offering that is out there, for a clinic of our size, I think we would probably have to go to DGL reluctantly.
So you probably have to, but yeah.
But I'm also involved in another new business which is going to be much smaller and has different needs, and we are looking at a different system, something called HeyDoc.
Okay.
Christy.
So one other thing, just if you're interested in again thoughts on DGL, we pay very little money for DGL as a server-based practice management software system. However, we pay a fortune on IT. So we have to have a server. The server needs to be located in a refrigerated room. We have an IT company that then has to have a disaster recovery system and a backup, and we pay £60,000 a year, isn't it, on IT? So there's a false saving.
So for the IT only, or for the entire?
Well, the IT is there primarily to support us on DGL.
Yeah. Okay. And a rough figure about the cost of DGL.
Oh, it's peanuts. I can't remember. It's £300 a month, something like that,
Okay.
for all the consultants.
Okay. With no distinctions about how many number of patients you were managing, number of express.
Because it's server-based, there's no limit on that.
Okay.
We do have to pay extra for consultants to have remote access, so that they can dial into DGL when they're elsewhere, not on the premises. And because DGL is not Mac compatible, we also have to pay. So we were the consultants were working off Mac computers. So again, we had to pay extra to have all sorts of different bits of software to allow them to change their Mac into effectively a Windows environment to be able to access DGL.
Okay.
Okay, Christina, I imagine that we've managed to get the top developers and management into this room from DGL.
Why are we talking about DGL when we're talking
One
about
more
risk?
question.
I'm just asking. Okay, that's fine because this is interesting. But
One more question. And they have to take notice of you, or you will shoot them before they leave the room. All right? And there are 6 things you're going to tell them they better bloody do to improve your life and this system, or else they get shot. What are the 6?
Okay, so I think we've touched on some of those already. Electronic registration, online scheduling, appointment booking, online payment,
direct dictation.
yes.
Better
report.
When we say
Generation.
better, you mean some sort of database structure. That means you can report, you can print whatever you want.
Yeah,
in
once
terms
the
of-
field's in there, you should be able to put anything.
Yeah. Whatever I want, management reports.
Yes. Mac compatibility would be good.
That's 6.
Let's see,
That's
we'll
six.
stop there.
That's very good.
That's very good. And very finally, and then we'll do risks before St. John starts kicking me under the table. But I'm in enough pain.
Christina turns into a pumpkin at 4 o'clock.
Right,
so-
those six scored. Which are the two most important?
Reporting.
And reporting.
Reporting in what?
Reporting.
There's no, from a business perspective, based on where we are at the moment, with marketing in mind, and
You as a COO.
I would suggest.
and accounts.
No, I would suggest that online booking is something because it is absolutely ridiculous that you can, in any other part of the world, you can book a haircut, you can book, a taxi, you can do anything online, but you can't book a doctor's appointment. And if you could do that, that will give you such an advantage over everybody else because, you've fallen off your bike on a Sunday at 9 o'clock, you think, I need to see someone, I want to go see someone tomorrow, who can I go and see? I've got to wait till 8:30 before I can phone
But
anyone.
with the COO's hat on, it's the management reporting. Okay, one final question, and we only talk about risks. If you were to score those 6 factors out of 10 for DGL, what would you give them?
What do you mean in terms of need or current functionality?
Against that need, and you said, right, I'm going to score you out of 10 for each of those needs, what would you score DGL for the 6? Reporting, nil point, 0, yeah? Or 2, what
So
would it be?
I'm scoring the current
Yeah, what you got?
delivery of okay. So reporting 2 out of 10. Online payment and online registration 0. Voice
Sorry.
recognition software 0.
Mac compatibility 1.
Well, it's 0.
Well, no, because
You've got it.
You have
You've
to
got
find a way
it.
around it.
You put in a.
You've got a Heath Robinson
Yeah.
solution.
Find a way around it.
But,
What were the other ones?
online booking, online payment, direct dictation,
I think
reports, electronic registration, and then Mac compatibility.
Okay, total crap then is the answer to that one.
It is pretty much. I mean, it's such a shame. Ideally, we should have so much valuable information that we could bring across to ASI. We can't even pull a referrer database off the system because we have enough. But again, it might be the way that the thing was set up and the way that the data's been input. But when we pull off a list of GPs, we don't know whether the GP is a referrer or whether that was the patient's GP that was nominated on the registration form.
God.
And there's no way of identifying an NHS GP from a private one either. So
there's no
it's
relational
useless. It's
database.
absolutely useless. And
Anyway, I won't get into techie stuff about how could that possibly all be true. Go on then. Risks.
So I should just mention, because you asked me about software, that in addition to the DGL Practice Manager, we worked with 3D Biotronics, which effectively was our PACS. And in fact, we still work with 3D Biotronics. So all the images from X-ray and from ultrasound was sent to 3D Biotronics. They were then reported by the consultants. The report resided on 3D Biotronics, and our consultants would log into 3D Biotronics to view either the images or the reports, and the reports.
Okay,
So we couldn't have lived without that.
that makes sense. Okay.
Fine.
Go on then. Risks.
Well, I thought they were doing the questions. I mean, the first question you should ask.
No, you do them as well. You know, they've got to learn what matters. Sorry, go on.
Have you finished your questions?
No, he hasn't. But I'm going to move on risk. But so I have a structure where I can do this, and I just want to check we get it right. Okay.
Okay.
So the first thing is, you did not have a risk, did you?
No.
No. Okay. So therefore, of the major functions of the risk, how were they handled? So let's start with the first thing, which is when you booked a patient for X-ray or ultrasound, how was it known that there was a patient booked?
Okay. So with ultrasound and X-ray, we created clinic lists on DGL as if they were another consultant. Okay. So in ultrasound, the patients were booked into slots on that clinic list, so we knew exactly what time the patient was coming and whether it was a diagnostic scan or an intervention one. With X-ray, because it was only our own patients, they weren't scheduled with a time. They were just so we had a page, but our radiographer just entered on them. Maybe the clinic's diary started at 8 o'clock in the morning, and he didn't put the real time of when the patient was seen. He just entered their names on, in sequential order. So the billing was done also from that list.
Okay. So therefore, ultrasound, you had an appointment slot. So I come to see you as a consultant. You say I need an ultrasound, and I'd be told, right, you have an appointment at 4 o'clock, generally, something like that. Whereas X-ray, it's what's called a walk-in clinic. So you say to me, just go downstairs. And if I'm lucky, I will walk downstairs and the radiographer is doing this, waiting for a patient. Or if I'm unlucky, there may be he may be with a patient now, and there may be another patient in front of me, so I have to wait 20 minutes. Okay? So there's two.
The reason for the difference is that, as I mentioned earlier, we work with radiologists who have other jobs, many other jobs. So we had to work around their availability. So we knew that on a Wednesday we had a radiologist on site during this time, and that's why we had to have definite slots for the appointments. With the X-ray, we had a radiographer on site who was there, 10 hours a day, whenever clinics were running, and was just waiting for patients to come in. So they were sort of seen on arrival.
And the other bit that you need to understand is that most orthopaedic surgeons are very comfortable looking at an X-ray, because that's the basic diagnostic tool. So they don't necessarily need a radiologist to say what's on the scan. Okay?
Yeah.
They can just look at it. Whereas on an ultrasound, if you showed an ultrasound to an orthopaedic surgeon, he doesn't know which end of the probe to hold. Okay?
Yeah.
So therefore, what would then happen is if the radiologist, if you come to see me as the patient, I look at the X-ray and I will say that's that. I might check it later with the radiologist if I'm not sure. The radiologist will report it later to check there's nothing I've missed, but there's not the need before I see you back as the patient for the radiologist to have written a report for X-ray. Okay?
Okay.
X-ray is the only one where that happens.
All X-rays were reported,
Yeah, yeah.
but it didn't have to be instant. It could be done at night, and in fact was often done at night.
Yeah. But did you find that sometimes there's different between what the radiologist is saying and, you know?
So if the consultant was really uncertain, he'd pick up the phone to a radiologist, and the radiologist would log into the system and have a look. Okay, so that's the first bit, booking. The second bit then is I'm the patient and I go downstairs. So how then is the information about me put into the system?
So the request form is either for X-ray or for ultrasound is generated from DGL, from practice manager, by the consultant. It used to be paper and then it became electronic. So the patient demographics, etc., would flow into the request form. The consultant would add his or her comments on the sort of clinical query, and then with X-ray, sometimes they'd bring a piece of paper down. Other times it was just emailed across. But both X-ray and ultrasound could not allow the investigation to happen without that piece of paper. So sometimes it did slow things up if a consultant was doing it manually and hadn't sent the request form down. So that was generated by DGL.
Okay.
And then the patient pitches up, and how does the X-ray machine or the ultrasound machine know it's my images?
So again, not ideal, but all that information needs to be input manually, either into the modality, either into the X-ray machine or into the ultrasound. So we had a number of errors, spellings of international patients, particularly dates of birth, and getting these corrected after the study has taken place is a big governance issue. So time-consuming and high risk really when you've got somebody typing that into a very small screen in a hurry. But that's what was needed.
Same question. You've got a supplier you like. DGL could be anybody in here, and you say, right, I've had enough of this RIS rubbish. These are the 6 things I better bloody well have that work efficiently. For me, also for you, and then for the radiographers or stenographers and radiologists and physicians.
So hold on. What we're talking about is we need a RIS, because a RIS has all this functionality. Because the way a RIS works, which is when you book an appointment in a RIS, it has my name, my date of birth, my details, and those details automatically go from the schedule into the machine. It's called a DICOM word list.
Right, I know that. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is why we looked at putting in a RIS. It was primarily because of the governance issue around the errors that were happening. So we did look at putting in the RIS, and of course we wanted the RIS to be able to do all of this for us. What it also needed to be able to do was to send across the request form so that the radiologist could then dial in remotely to report it. They're not able to report it without the request form. Now, the company that was developing this for us, that's where they failed. They could not find a way of getting the request form from DGL across to the PACS. There was one other company that they had worked with, and only one other company that actually implemented their system. And what they had resorted to doing was to sending across the request form as if it were one of the images. So it was sort of a workaround, but it wasn't ideally something that one would imagine to be very simple. They couldn't imagine. That's when we aborted the project.
Okay. can I ask one?
Of course you can.
As many as you like.
Yeah, too. I'm thinking about the moment in which one you decided to buy a new piece of equipment. I mean, considering that you have to buy a new machinery in this case. So, can you please tell us which are the person within your clinic involved in this process?
Okay, so there was no machinery involved. This was software that we were looking to purchase to achieve the end result. In our organisation, I think we're quite unique in that we are. So the clinic is owned by 3 partners.
Okay.
There is one partner who acts as if he were the chief executive,
Okay.
so he's the senior designated partner. On this sort of spend, which I think was about £20,000 at the time, wasn't it? More than that. We would need 2 of the partners to approve the project.
Okay.
But normally, the senior designated partner would be able to make the decision. In this particular case, Sinjan acts as an advisor to our clinic, and because of his expertise in this field, he was sort of leading this project, and I was involved as well. So it was a sort of joint.
Okay. And these 3 partners you mentioned were, can you please tell us the background?
So they're all surgeons. So one
Okay.
is the abdomen surgeon, one is the knee surgeon, and one is the foot and ankle surgeon.
Okay. So
Okay, but Sinjan was the consultant, basically. He was the advisor.
But Christina's not doing herself justice. The partners have more or less complete confidence in Christina, as do I, and Christina is smart enough that if she wants help or wants advice on something, she'll ask for it. But ultimately, I think the partners are in a position. So this is about the decision-making units. What they're asking, how it is there. That Christina would generally do the research, and it would be agreed there was a need. Christina would do the research. She'd talk to the radiographers. She'd talk to the radiologists. She'd talk to me. She'd talk to whoever. She'd talk to companies, and then she'd say, "I think this is the best solution." And then at that point, she'd talk to the senior partner who would ask some questions and, are you sure, and blah, blah, blah. And then if it was more than a certain amount of money, the partners would discuss it and say yes. Not so much they wouldn't challenge the decision, the choice as to who they work with. They would just say, are we prepared to spend this amount of money?
Mm.
Christina
Christina.
So we agreed on the need, and the need, as I say, came from governance. We agreed on the need. We then decided to see what was available. And the 3 of us, I think, were involved in the meetings, weren't we, at the time? We decided to go, again, the 3 of us decided to go with one particular company, and then at a sort of...
They sent us the bill.
And then at an operational level, I sort of drove that. So, to get the consultants involved, to get the radiologists involved, to get the radiographer and the secretaries, and that's when we realised it didn't work. We had to start getting so. But I think we're quite unique. I mean, I manage the budget. I think in any other organisation you would have a finance person.
And you would probably have in a bigger organisation, you'd have the person who was responsible for imaging, so an imaging manager or someone who would do all the research.
This is T-Lock.
Yeah, this is T-Lock. Yes,
so there was no imaging manager.
So
there was no finance manager.
your key requirement as a manager, as the de facto CEO, if not rather than Brian, your key driving issue here was governance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Other things other people wanted, like workflow and whatever, was secondary. Your key issue was governance.
Because it was working. It wasn't ideal, but again, there weren't huge numbers and they were all internal patients. It was working. It only really became an issue when, at every governance meeting we were talking about, all the errors that needed to be changed. And in fact, actually, 3D Biotronics flagged it as a particular concern.
Okay. And you also looked for a trusted advisor as who was best to help you choose a system that would meet your
Well, we
needs?
were lucky enough to have one, but I would have gone out to, I don't know. anything
Would you
about
have
this.
gone out?
Yeah, I would have been out of my depth.
Okay.
I could not have, taken
So
that
if
sort
you
of
hadn't had
project without-
St John, what would you have
I
done?
would have got our radiologists on board. So we have a senior radiologist who represents the group, and I would have worked with Saeed on this project.
So Saeed would understand the issues and he understands the risk that well, does he? So he can
Well,
act
if
as
if he couldn't help, he would have been my first port of call. If he couldn't have helped, then we actually also had a good relationship at the time with the imaging manager at King Edward VII Hospital, Corey. So I spoke to him quite a bit.
So you pick the brains of a couple of external experts, like St John and an imaging manager, as well as talking to your key radiologists.
And I also talked to many other CEOs,
Right,
sure. Holly Street and
to find out what.
Claremont, what do you do? How do you do? So.
But the key driver remained governance.
Oh yes, yeah. On a limited budget, there wasn't money in the budget for this, so we had to find the money, and the money is. It's the free partners who have to dig deep into their pockets for this sort of expenditure. There had to be a real need, and in this particular case, it was government.
Okay, I'll keep going. I don't have any more questions.
How much do you pay for your packs?
Very little. We pay £1 per study that we send, and then we pay a monthly fee for the reporting radiologists. The consultants who access the packs don't actually pay for accessing the packs. I can't remember what the bill comes to.
It's about £1,500 a month,
Yeah,
about
£1,500
£1,500 a month.
It's not money. And it works very well. And it means that as an add-on to that, we have our ultrasound and our X-ray images and reports on 3D biotronics. We also have the MRIs that we do at two other centres, so at 45 Queen Anne Street and at 9 Harley Street. They are also we report them ourselves. They send the images to 3D biotronics, and then our radiologists dial in and report them. So from our consultants' point of view, it's wonderful because they just dial in, and the secretaries as well. They just log into 3D Biotronics and they can see what's been reported, what hasn't been reported, what's outstanding, and the images and reports are there. So that works well. So going back to the RIS as well, because we never got that far, I'm not quite sure whether a RIS is supposed to do the billing for you as well, is it?
It is,
yes.
It is.
So a lot of time is spent by our accounts manager going through every clinic list to make sure that the clinical information that has been input and the codes that have been input are correct. If it's bilateral or they've done more than one joint, there's different ways of charging for these things. So it would be very nice to just press a button and know that the billing and the month's sort of revenue reports came off without any errors, but that's quite time consuming.
What there should be is there should be a lookup table behind, at which point you just say, okay, a self-paid patient pays this much for these different procedures, and then this insurance company lets you charge this much, that's insurance. So you put in, who the payor is, self-pay or Bupa or AXA, and it's a diagnostic ultrasound of the shoulder. Put that in there, you put that, and it just comes out. Here's the invoice. It's £320. Boom. So that's how it should work. Because if you don't have an invoicing system, and for example, Soliton, which is a very big player, doesn't have an invoicing. What that then means is you have to export a sort of summary sheet into your accounting system, and then you have to issue invoices there, and it's very, very messy.
Okay.
It's messy and it's slow because ideally with self-pay patients, you want them to pay whilst they're in the building. If you let them walk out the building, you're unlikely to see the money, particularly international patients. So you do need a system that will be able to, very quickly draw up an invoice so that by the time the patient comes back up to the front desk, the invoice is there ready for them to pay. If you delay working out how much that particular patient is going to have to pay, then that's a lost opportunity.
Okay. So one little question. So you mentioned many times that you're dealing with international patients. So do you think that they have different needs or requirements when coming to, in terms of?
Let me just explain. So when we refer to international patients, we're referring primarily to Arab patients.
Okay.
And the reason that we refer to them is that we do a lot of work with the embassies, the Arab embassies.
Okay.
And there are some Arab embassies that bring patients to the UK for treatment or diagnosis, effectively as if they were NHS patients.
Okay.
So they are sponsored by the embassies. The individual patients don't pay. So, that's an important revenue stream for us.
Okay.
And yes, they do have special needs. They're hard work, I must say.
Okay, so
and the embassies pay very, very late.
Okay, and do you have to meet certain standards for working with them?
No.
Pricing. They don't require extra
we have to be competitive on pricing. But I think
backhanders competitive on backhanders.
No way. but I think they come to us because of the reputation of our senior partners, really.
Okay.
They've been around for a long time.
And in terms of technical standards, that to transfer information to the embassies, or there's nothing about that?
No different to anything else, no.
What do you do? Do you send around a bunch of invoices once a week or something?
Oh, it's very complicated. Because the embassies don't pay, we still have unpaid invoices from 2015. There are many people in the Harley Street medical area who won't work with the Arab embassies. But
just like Italy, yeah.
But we have a very good relationship with a company that offers a credit control service for Arab embassies, and they have inside contacts. So they used to come and collect hard copies of our invoices and deliver them and then chase the embassies and then bring us the checks. But because of the GDPR, do you know about? You must do it because you're European. So we now put the invoices into a Dropbox for them to collect.
Yeah.
And then now all payments are made by banks. But yeah, once a month so we're talking about Saudi, UAE, Kuwait Health Office, Kuwait Military, Bahrain, Egypt. So these embassies, they all send us patients.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Anything else on that?
No. Yeah.
Warren, do you think of some?
I know the answers, but I'm just trying to think what would be helpful. Okay.
Interestingly, just thinking about it, because I've heard you talking about workflows and one thing or another, our radiologists don't find it difficult to work as they're working at the moment. So what they do is they have no, they between them, they allocate a reporting day for MRI, for example, one each day, and then they just go in, they report what's there, and then next day somebody else does it. With ultrasound, so when we were at 79 Wimpole Street, the X-rays were reported by the radiologists when they were on site in the ultrasound clinic. So, as Sindra said earlier, it didn't matter that was delayed. And then the ultrasound reports, 5 out of the 6 radiologists would again report the ultrasound there whilst they were on site. 1 chose to do it remotely from home at night. So for them it was very important that they could dial in remotely. They also report within their NHS working day, etc. So they needed to be cloud-based so that they could report in remotely rather than having to be at a workstation on site to report. That would not work for them. And I think actually a lot of facilities get that wrong because they assume that the radiologists want to be there and they set up these other reporting rooms.
Can you pass me a board marker? I will try and draw a diagram which I think may help this. What Christine is saying. So what you I'm not very good at drawing, so see if this helps. What you've got is you've got a big box here, which is the radiologist who has to report the scan, and he is sitting in front of his PACS terminal. Okay, so that's the picture archiving. And what you have got in this case is you have got, the way you've got it now is you've got MRI 1, MRI 2, MRI 3. These are all different physical facilities. Okay, so they're in different, they're different companies, different facilities. What you've also got here, you have got ultrasound.
Sorry, the reason for the MRI being different facilities, even though we've got MRI on site at the hospital now, we will send our patient, if they're self-payers, they might want to go to one facility rather than another. If they're insured, it will be about their availability, so wherever we can fit them in. So that's why we have a choice of where is that?
Okay, so what you've got is you've got 5 different machines that have been there, and it all ultimately comes together with the radiologist. So what you have with each one is you have a referral form. Okay?
Yep.
Can you pass me the rubber, the eraser thing? Sorry, just to make it, just so that the diagram isn't. So what you've got is you've got a referral form, a referral form, and a referral form. And the radiologist will not report anything or will not do anything without a referral form. Okay? And the referral form comes from the RIS. Alright? So you have to have a way of getting the referral form into where the radiologist is reporting. Alright? And there are 2 ways you can do that, depending on these. But what they do is, because they report off this company called Biotronics, what they do is they create what is called a DICOM image. So a DICOM image is the image that comes off the machine, so it's there. They create a DICOM image of each referral form, and then they send it into the PACS. So the radiologist opens up, he's got a work list, and it's got patient St. John Brown. He double clicks on it, and the first thing he sees is the DICOM image of the referral form. So that says St. John Brown, MRI, right shoulder, old and knackered, useless. Is there a rotator cuff?
Is there hope?
Is there hope? Is he useless? Okay. So they then know what they're looking for. All right. So that's part 1. The second part of it is that then what happens is the radiologist writes his report, and he has to get the report back to these systems. Okay? The report has to go back to the systems, because ultimately the place where you do the scan is responsible for the scan and the report. So they require a copy of the record, and also the report then has to go, the report has to be visible to the consultants. And the consultants can either log into a RIS or they can log into the PACS to see the report. Okay? So what it's showing is that, what I'm trying to show is that the report ends up on the RIS. Sorry, it doesn't go on there. The report ends up there on the RIS at this centre. Okay? And you've got a report there. So on the RIS, on the RIS, you always have, after a completed exam, you have a referral form and you have a report. All right?
However,
yes,
the report, it would be, in an ideal world, you would also want the report to flow back into the patient management system.
Into the patient, right? Yes.
So
exactly.
we have to put that in there manually, but with these more modern practice management software systems, what they tend to do now is, rather than sending the report out to the patient or to the referrer, they set up patient portals. So you encourage patients to come in to collect their results into a patient portal. So ideally, again, to cut out one of those steps, if a RIS could actually get the report back into whatever
the patient record, the outpatient record,
that would be ideal.
Because the other bit we haven't talked about, which is absolutely relevant to that, is on the RIS system, which is here. One of the things that Christina's just said is a patient portal. Now, what that should mean is, not many of them have them. What that means is, I've been scanned at this centre, and they say, Mr. Brown, would you like to log into the system? And I can then log in and I can see my report and can probably see my images. But the bit that is more important is a referrer portal, so that I have sent you for a scan, I've sent you for a scan, I've sent you for a scan, I've sent you for a scan. And what I want to know is I want to be informed of progress. So I'd like to know that you've booked a scan, I'd like to know that you've been scanned, I'd like to know you haven't been booked, and I'd like to know that the report is ready. Okay? And what will happen is I log into the patient to referrer portal, and I've got all 4 of you up there, and I can see where things are. And when the report has been done on Christina, I will get a text message that says there is a report for you to see. It won't, because GDPR, I can't tell you who it is, but it will just say there is a report, and I know she's coming to see me later this afternoon, and I go, thank heavens I got the report, and I can log in and see it on the referrer portal.
It's double-sided, inside for person walking in the clinic and patient side.
Yes, it's for the referrer and the patient,
okay,
but they're different. So I can see all my patients. As a patient, she can only see her stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what the modern RISs are starting to offer. Okay?
Okay.
I don't know whether it's of interest or not, sorry, but just to say, we've been talking a lot about 3D biotronics and how we work with them. I think they've actually developed a RIS.
They have.
It was after the time when we were actually exploring this, but it may be interesting just to know what
one of the things
it's very good.
One of the things I'm planning on doing is, it probably won't be next week, it'll probably be the week after, is I'm going to take you down to see biotronics, because I think you'll find biotronics very, very interesting. Okay.
Thank you.
Just abstracting away what I've heard you say, Christina, so I abstract away and try and understand what bothers you. I've heard...
How long have you
got? How long have you got? In terms of here.
Narrow it down.
Governance is a killer issue, and the reason why you worry about it so much is the lack of data integrity.
Mm.
That's related to the fact that what you really want to do is, whether we call it a patient record or a report, is to have patient information once that is ubiquitously available everywhere. That's the key need you have. And you get buried in the weeds because DGL is such a pile of shit and this, that and the other.
DGL doesn't.
But what you actually need is a sort of one time look at the patient and everything is there.
Absolutely.
Yeah? And you also...
Which is why this new hospital isn't going to work, because already they're saying that they're going to work off 2 or 3 different, so...
And that includes the billing. If you've got a one view of the patient...
Yeah, because it's insurance details...
referrals, for what he's had done to him, including operations, everything else. Mm. What your need is one image of the patient.
One archive where all the patient data is
together.
It seems very simple, doesn't it?
Was a single patient view was mentioned before. The one.
The one other bit, because having.
And then you want to be able to schedule them and all those things, but you do that because you've got one view.
But the bit that I think that Christina wants, and I think anybody who's been in her position or in one of my earlier positions, what you want is an easy life, okay? And I know that's and therefore you want your consultants, your referrer consultants, to be happy that they get stuff when they need it, and they can book scans when they want, and they get the reports when they need them. You want your radiologists to be happy, but that they're not being chased to do things, that when they do something it all flows through. And you want your patients to be happy, isn't it? Mm. So it's ultimately a system that sort of, I mean, I guess in many ways puts the patient at the centre of it. Gosh, that's practical.
But safety is another,
Safety.
The reason I bring...
safety in terms of patient records, making sure that report does belong to that patient and that, the name is right, the date of birth is right.
The reason for stressing this is it's so easy when you talk about crap old systems you'll start with to get lost in the weeds and lose sight. Well, actually, what is it I want? And what you want is one view of the patient, which includes referral forms, billing, everything else, a single view of the patient, and making people's life easy around that single view, whether it's data entry via voice recognition or whatever it is, and make life easy in terms of reports coming off, and make life easy for billing.
Yeah. And I think integration is whatever program is used to develop a piece of
They
software.
must talk to each other.
Yeah, we've had this problem. So if you want to then add on an outcomes system, we've tried this and failed again. You need your patient.
So you need
data to
an
be able to
open
perform-
system.
Open architecture,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah, because you're always going to have to work with other systems, whether it's a PACS or a RIS or outcomes or whatever else. But there needs to be that.
Future proofing.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Open architecture equals future proofing. Yeah, you can add things on.
So
But they're your key
we
needs as
managed
a
quite
manager.
well without a RIS, but it was high risk, and we had to be very tight on audits and checking and how many hours and how many this and that. Yeah. And likewise, we were very lucky in the sense that our radiologists were very reliable. They would always report overnight. The problem is that, in the middle of the night, when they haven't got their request form, and we know that patient is in at 8 o'clock the next morning, there's a mad panic when there's nobody to speak to, nobody to get the request form. So they can only do their job if that request form is there at the time when they're reporting. So to rely on manual processes is
That's when you talk to other people. When we talk to other people, that's a very good point you just made with the question, which is reporting done on site? So, for example, in the NHS, it will all be done with me sitting in the hospital reporting, or do you allow remote reporting? And again, with remote reporting, there's two elements to think about. One is if one's doing it during the daytime. If I've got a problem, I can pick up the phone to the centre and say, "Oh, I haven't got this." But as Christina has just said, I mean, one of the most successful radiologists around starts reporting at 11 o'clock at night, and if she hasn't got all the information then, and the patient's coming in at 8:30, you're completely screwed. So it's the on-site versus remote reporting, and then remote is in office hours or at other times, and that's the way things are moving.
And for the radiologist to know when that report is needed, so i.e. in terms of when the follow-up appointment is, would be very helpful as well. I don't know whether RIS does that or not.
Okay, there's another way of doing it which I prefer, but they don't. They don't always do it, which is to say all reports have to be done within 24 or 48 hours, and the radiologist is notified if it's in advance if it's sooner than that.
Which is, I think, what we do probably.
Yeah. Okay, you need to
I
go
do
more or
need to
less,
go, I'm
don't
afraid.
you?
Yeah, I've got another meeting. So I can give you my card in case you need to contact me. Would you like that?
Where's your physical office? Is it in?
So at 1 Welbeck Street, which is where ASI is going to be. You're very welcome to come and visit. There's not
Well,
much to
if
see,
we
but-
need to come and visit you, can we come and...
Yeah, it's a shared office, so it's best to call me and arrange to meet
Right,
or
but
something.
you can give us another hour if we need it.
Yeah, I mean normally I can.
You
It's
buy
just
lunch
today
or
I've
something.
got
We can buy you lunch.
I've just got meeting after meeting after meeting, but any other time, yeah. If I can help, I will.
I'll share with you pictures if you want.
I too learn a lot from these from these sort of exercises, so thank you. You don't need it. Oh, you're taking a shot. Okay.
This is the new generation. You don't need it paperless completely.
Just a general question, because I'm curious. How did DGL get away with it?
This is the first.
HCA is full of DGL, isn't it?
I think
They own that window,
DGL.
which
They
is
own
one of the-
DGL.
yeah.
And they haven't made an effort. I mean, the biggest user of DGL must have these problems in space.
No, but HCA use Meditech.
Well, hold on. Meditech said pass.
Or patients register on Meditech.
Yes, that's right. Yes, they do.
Yeah, so I think you.
Yeah, but
I think DGL works fine for sole traders, individual
which is how it started.
consultants. I think when you get, we're too big for, we've outgrown DGL. But if it was just a handful of consultants, seeing 20 or so patients a day.
The old consultants comes and does 1 clinic a week or 2 clinics a week in Harley Street. It works perfectly for.
Yeah.
Great.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is nothing that's scaled.
Not that we're aware of.
Well, no, CompuCare 8 seems to be the system of choice at the moment, and that's the one that actually can't deliver on the sort of practice management side of things, but it's what the hospitals are putting in. And then, well, again, it's the hospital. I can't remember the one what's the one that I forget, the very expensive one.
There's
One of
many
the
ways.
NHS trusts.
Oh, Epic.
Epic.
But Epic's a hospital system.
Again,
It's
a
not
hospital
a.
system.
It does everything.
Is it any good?
Yeah, it's supposed to be quite good, but it's bloody expensive. UCH have just put it in. Cambridge have got it. Addenbrook's put it in. And UCH and Claire said it was fine, but they just wish that they had spoken. She wishes they had spoken to the radiologist before they configured it.
Of course.
Of course.
Peter, nice to meet you.
Was a pleasure.
I
Thank you very much.
forget how to pronounce your name.
Shooting.
Shooting.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Good luck with the project.
Yeah, thank you very
Let
much.
me know if I can help. Marcus, lovely to see you. How's Poppy? She must be grown up. How old is
Poppy
she?
is nearly 11.
Oh my goodness. And a good girl?
She's sweet.
And your wife, I forget what your wife called?
Tina.
Tina, how's she?
She's very well.
Is she good? Really?
Well,
Besides Marcus is very well.
Stay-
He's in remission.
stay-
she's stable because she's on all these monoclonal antibodies, which
Mm.
work well.
Oh, good.
And she swims without a wetsuit
In the sea.
2 kilometres a day in
Oh
the
my goodness.
sea, and it does marvels for a joint.
Oh, I'm pleased to hear that.
There you go. You
Because
can
the
think about it. You get joint
Because
problems
of the anti-inflammatory effect of
in the salt
cold
water, or cold water.
and the fact she's keeping them moving and then it sees up.
Good, good.
But personally, I think she's completely barking mad, but there you go.
Keeps her busy. And fit. Good.
I see you later.
See you at 5.
That is my manual case.
Yeah, call me if you can't get in.
I won't be able to.
Name it if I'm in.
Thank you very much.
Every day.
You go that
In
way,
the sea,
or that way.
it's
No,
9
go
degrees
that.
centigrade.
Whichever. No, that's through the library.
Okay.
I'm assuming that your wife is a little bit older than us, and
Not that old, she's younger than me.
You don't know Marcus. Marcus is almost 100. So I can't be old.
which is, I mean, it's remarkable. That's
Right. So okay. So how useful was that on a scale of 0 to 10?
11.
Was it?
Yeah.
Let's start. Okay, good. Well, that's good to hear.
My personal concern is, it certainly isn't with Christine with Christina, it's Christine with us. We let her get lost in the weeds without, like people do, because they talk about what they know, rather than extract out. And I'm telling you this because this is what you've got to learn to do. What underneath all that conversation, what are the real key issues that
Right.
are
But
keeping her up at night?
But I agree with you. But bearing in mind this is the first one,
No, it's
you know,
not.
they've got to start getting a whole bunch of data so they can work out what's important.
Right, but what I worry for you is you end up drowning, okay? And all your report says is DGL's a load of shit, which is true. We all knew that.
DGL is not terribly relevant. It's for DGL
No,
and
it
the rest.
isn't, but
But it's interesting.
just keep that in mind. It's what she really trying to say in terms of
right.
what are her killer issues,
Yeah.
because they translate into the benefits we've got to. But St. John has to satisfy if he actually
Okay. So, right. So what do we want to do next?
I mean, it's wonderful having Christina, because I think we should go back to her again, because she's our friend, as you probably noticed. And I think we still need some practices with friends.
Right. Okay. What I would suggest we do as the next one, because let me check I can do it. But what I would like to do is probably get you in to see Phoenix next. Phoenix is an imaging centre on Harley Street. Yeah.
Yeah, which side?
Both of you. This is learning.
This is learning.
You'll get good information, but it's for both of you. Okay. And I think there's 3 or 4 that you should do together. Okay, because it's
until you're really comfortable and you're smooth in terms of what you've got to ask.
Yeah, okay.
How you
So Phoenix is a centre on Harley Street that they have got 2 buildings. They've got number 9 and number 25. Number 25 is full of consulting rooms. Number 9 is full of consulting rooms but has imaging in the basement. And they also have a hospital at Weymouth Street, which is about 400 yards away. Okay, so there are a whole bunch of different things there. They have got an MRI, they've got a CT, they've got X-ray, and they've got ultrasound. So, and they're all quite busy.
So they've got complex, different kinds of kit, but there's a complexity because they have lots of different kinds of consultants using that kit.
Right.
A kit is kit, but the image is
okay. And the reason they will be of great interest, and if I can spin it right, they will be interested in the outcome of your sort of study. Is that they are planning on putting in a new RIS because they. Oh, this is my daughter. Let me just ask them. Can I call you back in about 20 minutes? Okay, thanks. So they are planning on putting in a new RIS, and they don't quite know what to put in.
Have they produced any functional requirements?
I don't know. But that's a question I will find out for you. Okay.
Yeah. And if they have produced an FRS, it's a good place to start because we can go through it with them to critique it.
Right, exactly.
Rather than getting lost in the weeds, which was an FRS is a statement of functional requirements. This system must do this, must do that, must do the other. And half of the time, when they get written as a bunch of techie statements, rather than a bunch of I want my radiographer to put data in once and whatever it is.
Is something you attach to the request of proposal?
Okay. Now I don't know where they are, but let me find out.
That would be really good.
And they have got a practice manager. I think she may have a bigger title now. Who is a nurse who is pretty good, and they have a new imaging manager who I don't know who's getting very good reviews. And so what we'll try and do is we'll try and get a meeting with them.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll try and get together. Okay.
That's good.
So I will try and do that. I'm going to have to sweet talk Andrew Barker, but that's what I'm good at.
You get on all right with Andrew, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Get on well. I'm just trying to see when I want to try and do this. I probably won't talk to him until Friday.
While you're doing that, let me talk to them.
Sorry, can I just do 2 things? Can I just ask, what is your availability? It will be coming into Harley Street, okay, to do this, on either Wednesday or Friday next week. Is there any reason why you can't do those?
No.
And it'll probably be a 1-hour meeting.
Okay.
That's fine for us. Is that okay? All right, good. Okay. I will try and set that up. And then, sorry, you correct me on this. Is that I have then got. I've got. So we do that. I don't know how friendly MIP are as to whether we'll get to see them. I then think we would probably do phone calls, conference calls, with Cobalt, simply because it takes about 3 hours to get down to Cheltenham, and possibly Paul Strickland. And the other one that I will get you into from the NHS is my local hospital where I'm a governor, the Queen Vic in East Grinstead. But again, I'm not sure which of these, whether it's worth going to see them or whether we can do a conference call.
Cobalt, you'll remember, is this sophisticated mobile services provider, with kit. They send kit out everywhere, as well as having PET CT and whatever within their location. And then the Paul Strickland Centre is a very state-of-the-art cancer diagnostic centre, really. Well, it does radiotherapy as well, doesn't it? Cancer diagnosis.
Well, it does. That's right. I mean, it's state of the art, but it's in 1940s buildings.
Yeah,
so
it's
it
very
doesn't
old buildings, but it's very
It's really, really good.
Yeah, it's got one of the only 3 cyber knives.
No, it doesn't. That's Mount Vernon has it.
That's true. Mount Vernon has it from
Paul
Australia.
Strickland, yeah. Just, okay. But anyway, let's
Which
do.
is a good mix. They're all very different.
Let's do Phoenix next, and Phoenix will be I think very useful, and then we'll see where we go after that.
But what we got to get, boys and girls, what's really important for you and for him ultimately, even if he doesn't realise it yet, is get them to abstract out of the weeds, or you've got to pick the messages out of the detail. What is this person really trying to tell me about what's really important?
But Marcus, sorry, I agree with you, but I think the way you have to interview them is you have to let them talk for about 45 minutes as they want to talk. And then you're saying, okay, as Marcus did with Christina, what's the really important thing there? And it's governance, or it's patient safety, or whatever it is there. But you need to let them talk about the technical stuff and what matters.
So governance is her real issue.
Yep.
But if you turn that into functionality, it's one view of the patient and
Exactly.
integrity. That's her real need. That's what she's telling us. What am I doing? Breaking the place up. Okay, so we get those organised as soon as possible. You were going to ask what's your timetables?
No, I was just asking for next week. I was asking
No,
for
the next week is fine.
Yeah,
I got a question I was
Yeah.
guilty to ask before. So what's the difference between the report and the RF in terms of
Referral
content?
form.
Yeah, and contents of information.
Well, referral form is doing.
I'll show you. No, hold on. Let me just show you.
Report is here's the answer.
Okay.
We
So,
can show on prostate matters those beautiful prostate reports.
yeah, but they're not.
The referral form. Okay, is the okay.
Okay, so this is. Can I, yeah. So.
So referral form is what the doctor is writing as report
He
about
says-
what he's seeing.
No, the referral form is I'm sending you for an MRI and I want an MRI of your right shoulder.
Okay.
Okay? That's a referral.
Okay.
I'm referring you,
Okay.
go over there,
Okay. The
have your
report.
right shoulder done. The report says
Yeah.
Pietro clearly played a lot of tennis in his youth and his
At the
shoulder's
shoulder, yeah.
buggered. Okay?
Clear.
And the detail of why. But you want that data integrated
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, that's a report. Okay, it doesn't have any diagrams on it,
Yeah.
but it has a report, and then there's an addendum because you made a mistake. Okay, so that is a report. That's what it was, an MRA of the kidneys. The indication. So this you would have come off the referral form. Hypertension, high blood pressure, any secondary cause for that. And then he goes through, so both kidneys are normal, the right kidney measures this blood, there's no mass lesion there, the liver's a decreasing marked signal because of some other reason there, and then there's all this sort of thing. Conclusion, this is essentially a normal scan of the abdomen, the kidney, the adrenal glands and the vessels. Okay, so that's what a report looks like, or as Marcus will
Show one of our
I'm going to.
because they're lovely.
I'm going to. So,
St. John and I have written this database for old blokes like us called prostate.
Marcus has done most of it. Marcus is this.
Yeah, I've seen the website before.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Sorry, that was the same, Mr. Kirby again on that. On this. So again, this is clearly there. It says what are the indications? The right side is cystic lesion, which scores this, and your high PSA. These are the techniques used. Those are the findings. Blah de blah de blah. And then what you've got is this grades every part of the prostate into a box, and 1 is significant tumour, very unlikely. So 3 is I'm not sure. And then what it does is it shows the key bit. So this is the area
where there is.
So one is effectively normal, 5, 6 is very nasty.
And there is one where they think they're okay. So that's one. Let's just see a better one. Okay. So this is. This one's more interesting because what you can see is they're damn sure that in the right medial area of the apex, that they're sure that's cancer, and they're quite sure they're cancer. So what they're doing is they're showing, you can't see that, but then you see it there where they're convinced about it, and there on the things then. And then the other bits, they're pretty sure about that dark patch there and that dark patch there, and that bit there. Okay, so that's what a report looks like. Okay, but this is a very sophisticated report because it's multimedia. My report, the one I showed you before, was just a Word document, and so I'll just show you one more, which is this is.
While he's talking about that, it raises an important issue. We have developed a scoring system for if you are being diagnosed with prostate cancer, and we give a lot of points, a lot of stars, if the report is multimedia.
Because you can describe it, but just seeing those images, if you were the patient, I can say, look, this is it, and if I say it's in your right anterior apex, you go, what?
With a gleason and this, that, and the other.
Okay,
but the point is, a lot of systems would not allow you to attach a multimedia report.
Okay, so that's a good question.
Most people wouldn't even
see their own
images. Won't even say that.
No,
they'll just say, "Oh, I've got a report." But people like Christina won't. You've got to get out of them. Actually, the world would be much better if it was multimedia.
That's very good. So prostate's very complex. Now, this is my shoulder, okay? So again, it's not quite the same, but you've got all the chat, you've got all the description, okay, which is fine. So that's the description of what my problem is. And then what she's done is she's attached the MR images, and she's labelled them. No, she's not labelled them, but she's put an arrow. So what one can see, which the sore bits are. So that's very helpful. One, because the bit is, one is the description, that description, the consultant will understand it. The consultant knows what it is. But when the consultant is sitting down and explaining it to me as the patient, the fact that he can give me a copy of the report and say, that's what it is there. I come out feeling, I know. I don't
understand.
But I understand, I've got a problem there. I don't know what it is, but that's the problem. And it makes me feel I'm getting good quality medicine, as opposed to someone saying, you've got a bit in there that's wrong.
Right. And the point I'm trying to make is that remember when you're talking to people used to their clunky old systems, they think in terms of clunky old systems. Part of your job is, imagine a world, you two probably can't, when there weren't any internet mobile phones, all right?
Yeah.
People would never have told you, what I really want is a really cool phone that's just like my laptop computer. So you've got to try and tease out of them if they...
which it is the most difficult part for us.
You've got to learn to do it.
But as you understand this better and see it, you'll become more. So one of the questions you must have on the RIS is, does your system, or would you like your system to be able to handle multimedia reports?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not sophisticated multimedia. I mean, in cardiac, which we're not talking about, you'd have videos on it, that sort of stuff. Yeah. But it's the idea that you can attach images, you can attach diagrams.
What about on Dopplers and things like that? Do they attach videos?
Well, I don't know. I mean, cardiologists, vascular. Yeah, cardiologists do, but I don't think. I don't know. You have to ask a vascular surgeon, and I don't know what they do. You just don't know.
Okay. I think that the most difficult part and risky is that I assume that when I was talking about referring to the management information system was a slightly synonym of RIS. But at the end, we're talking about two completely different things.
Now, there is something where you have management information coming off the RIS.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the right thing to go. So, for example, the sort of things you'd ask about is you would want to be able to list how many referrers, how many scans have referrers sent.
Yeah.
What are they for? You would want to see how long does it take from the patient booking to the patient being scanned, and from the patient being scanned to the report coming through. Now, that's the sort of information you're interested in. You would want to run a list of how much money you're owed. Have you been paid? Those are things that the management information on the risk. Then the other bit could be is I come into the centre, I check in with reception here. How long is it before the radiographers call me down? Is it 5 minutes? So I've got an 11 o'clock scan. I'm asked to arrive at 11:15. I arrive at 11:15, but I'm not called down to 10 past. That's bad, because I have an 11 o'clock slot. So stuff like that is useful information for the imaging, for the people running the centre. So that's the sort of management information.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because my idea at the beginning was to funnel it a little bit, say, okay, do you have a management information? Yes or
Yeah.
no? And in case, do you have a risk?
But most of the other people you will talk to, actually, we're slightly starting at the wrong end, but it's good talking to Christina because she's very friendly and it's easy to work. And what you will see when we go and see Phoenix is Phoenix have got a combination of, no, they haven't. They don't provide the outpatient management system for the consultants. The consultants will pitch up and they have their own system. So the issues about DGL, I don't think will be relevant at Phoenix. But Phoenix have got risk problems, big risk problems.
Big
Okay.
risk problems.
So do you think that it's because we have a list of questions, as you said, seen before, but as we are not going to interview every person about in the same center, every person, out of the sample, the radiologists, radiographers, so clinician, owners, and so on. So do you think that it might be useful to try to have slightly different path in terms of questions? So if I know that I'm going to talking with...
We'll evolve that over time.
Yeah.
We'll see. Suck it and see.
Okay.
I can do Thursday or Friday next week. I can't do Wednesday.
Okay, I'll try and get Friday.
Friday's okay then.
Okay.
And I think I might try and get up Thursday. I think you need to go away, digest this,
Yeah.
and write up your I don't want a great report and Christina then said this and we said that. I want you to give me a précis of what you think you learned that's critical to Christina.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not all the...
No. It's not a transcription.
Not all the details.
It's not a transcription.
No.
Not
It's
the
just
details.
a bullet
These
points.
are the key points that Christina made and the key issues she has. And these are what she thinks works and where she's worried it doesn't work. Something like that.
And then these are the bits we need to explore further.
Yeah.
These are the questions we still need answers to, or
Right.
other questions we need
Can
to
you
answer.
manage that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If it's fine for you, we were.
If we can go Friday, well, we'll have to see what Phoenix say.
Yeah.
But you and we three will need to sit down for an hour and go through whatever you've extracted.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can send it to me, but I think it's better we talk about it as well.
Yeah.
As we get on with this, you'll be able to get on with it by yourselves, but we've got to get it right at the beginning.
Okay. And if it's fine for you, so a part of methodology of our research is when we to give more credibility about our findings, as is qualitative rather than a quantitative research. So our the idea is to create this small report, bullet points about what we understood during the conversation, and send it back to the interviewed person in order to double check for the validity of the.
That's fine.
That's absolutely fine.
I would ideally like to see it first, but
Yeah,
but
okay.
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, it's going to pass.
But it's
okay.
2 pages most.
Yeah. I mean, just about to valid because for
That's-
us
that's
it's
fine.
important.
It's got to be the killer issues.
It's 2 pages max.
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
If it's more than that, it's too much detail and we've missed the point.
Yeah, no, but it's just for critical success factor needs.
Hello? Yes, and you are? No, hold on. You're the third person who's called me the last 2 weeks. I know you come up with a no caller ID. I do not want to speak to you or your colleagues ever again. Fuck off. Excuse me. These are people trying to sell me double glazing. That's what I wrote it.
GDPR.
Sorry.
I mean, the GDPR is not doing anything about it.
No, well, I need to report them, but I just trying around it. But it's the issue. You've got to find the right place to with the forms. You've got to put all the phone numbers down. I'd rather just tell them fuck off on the phone.
I have to say, as soon as I get one of those calls, I just block it. Block all.
Well, yeah, but I've done it before, but this is a no caller ID.
Yeah.
And that's
I
not.
won't
There's
accept.
no blacklist for that.
No,
If I get no caller IDs, I just don't answer.
it's sometimes my wife because her work phone is a no caller. But I think you're right. One just doesn't do it.
I don't.
Anyway, sorry.
Answer.
So by Wednesday or by Friday, we're gonna see again.
No, Friday. We're trying to do Friday.
Okay.
I will probably come up on Thursday, so I'm around all day Friday, so we can either meet Thursday afternoon to go through this. We can go through it with or without St. John, or Friday morning, or whenever we're seeing Phoenix. We have to fit in with Phoenix as long as that is fine.
I will try. I will talk to Andrew, who is the chief executive, who I need to set it up with as a matter of courtesy. I will speak to him either tomorrow or on Friday, and I will just email you and say when we've got it.
Okay.
And Beth also asked, could we come up with not specific but a timetable so we can know when the data collection ends?
Maybe sometime, but not today.
Okay.
When do you think you need to have done all the data collection by?
Because Beth suggests it's better if we done before the end of June, so we can start to
No
analyze
chance.
it.
Well,
No chance.
okay. When do you need to submit your final report? It's August, isn't it?
August, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The problem is that the backward approach
Yes.
is the final piece of data should be ready for August, but
Actually, rethinking that, we can't go beyond the end of June because everybody have gone on holiday.
yeah. And the problem is that we need to
Well,
collect.
We're okay in early July, but not much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not much.
So okay.
Yeah, we've heard.
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
heard you.
Okay. So the other issue may be what by the end of June we will have done so much.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to make the decision as to whether that is enough, or whether you're still prepared to spend a bit more time interviewing other people.
We can do the analysis. We're not going to say, let's just do research. Now we do analysis.
We can do
We
step
will
by
just
step.
do
Yeah.
it. We're going to, do a bit of concurrent engineering, do them together as we go along.
Yeah, I mean, what will happen is after you've done 3 of these or 4 of these, you will start to have an idea of some of the ideas and issues, won't you?
Don't lose the fact that she consulted with the radiologist, she consulted with St. John, and if she couldn't have talked to St. John, she'd have found somebody else she regarded as an expert to consult on what systems were good, what were bad, which ones. And that came across more strongly, I think, than you noticed. But, she was very much, I will take advice and be influenced by that advice.
The bit that you will find, I'm not going to let you near a radiologist till you're more confident, okay? Because radiologists are very clever, they're very short of time, and they're generally quite bad-tempered. Okay, right. So therefore, you may have 5 questions,
and in 5 minutes they've answered them. They think they've answered them that they want to get.
That's
Okay.
it. And that you'll be lucky if you get more than that.
No, okay, so we will do that, all right? But the radiologists, effectively, all they care about is that the RIS works for them.
Make my life easy.
It is really, really simple, and
When I sit at home and I switch it on, it's all there. It's
Exactly.
dead easy. It's dead easy to find what I've got a report. It's easy to create the reports. I can do it in 5 minutes.
it has a good dictation system.
Yep.
That's a trivia. It's a question on there. Do you know?
If it's multimedia, it's easy to have the template and put ticks in.
I mean, it's the same things I've been told before. I mean, they don't care about reporting, they don't care about billing, as long as the money is flowing in. They don't care about anything as long
That's
Oh.
as...
right. Exactly. That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
They do care about seeing previous reports, and
Yes, they do. They do
care a lot
seeing
about
previous
that.
Again, that's the one of the bits that makes this a bit more complex is that some of the functions can be in the RIS, some of the functions can be in the PACS, and the bit they really care about is if there are prior images, if I've had my shoulder scan before, they want to look at it, the last scan, and see what has changed to this one. They are interested, but not quite as interested in a previous report, because they will look at it. They will look at my current report, today's scans, and they will say these are the problems, and then they will go back and see what's changed since the previous one. And they will just do that. That's their pattern recognition.
Will they look at other information, patent information,
What sort of information?
pathology?
They won't be that. They won't be that. For if it's a cancer, they will be looking to see, what a PSA is, what drugs they're on, all that sort of stuff there.
Yeah, they will then.
Yeah, but most of the stuff we're doing is not going to be cancer based, because cancer tends to be in specialised hospitals.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing is, remember, at this point, when you're interviewing, you don't care if it's called RIS or PACS. What you want to know is, what do they want the bloody thing to do?
Yes, it is. That's right. That's right. Okay.
Good.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Good. You done? You've got to go somewhere.
I've got to be somewhere at 5, so I've got 25 minutes. Right, are you going to stay with that? No, we get kicked out of this room at 4:30.
No, I just want to know where I'm meeting you tomorrow.
I forwarded, we're meeting at Caven on Devonshire Street.
So easy.